Right, then we will go ahead. I'd like to call the meeting of the Stillwater Planning Commission of September 15th to order. We will have a roll call of the attendees.
Mr. Bruckert, Mr. Rickelman,
Here.
Mr. Shanahan,
Here.
Mrs. Jerome,
Mute.
here, Mr. Allred.
We're a fun group, aren't we?
Zooming right along.
Kelly, you want to go forward with 3?
Can Brett hear us?
Shows he's on the line. It just shows he's muted.
Brett, can you unmute Brett?
Three is fine with me.
Okay. If Brett or Mike ever move into the 19th century.
Yeah, and Mike could call in by cell phone as well. So if he needs to, we can do it that way. But regardless, we'll go ahead. We'll have call the meeting to order in the public hearing. We'll now hear on the Sticks LLC final plat, SUB 20-13, requesting review and approval of the final plat to create a residential subdivision, creating 19 lots and 2 outlots at 821 North Main Street, the residential single-family small lot district. We'll have comments from staff to begin. Unmute, Lance.
Okay, Lance, I think you can take it.
Lance, you're on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, like I was saying, to add to the difficulties, let's see, Ryan is unable to get into the meeting for some reason. So let's see. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, this is the final plat for 821 North Main Street, otherwise known as the Sticks. As you can see, it's at the, it's east of Main, it's south of Tyler, and north of McElroy. The yellow boundary indicates the subject site. I believe previously it was a mobile home park at some point. You can see Boomer Road over here and East McElroy right here. And this is a view.
So can anybody hear now?
Yes.
It looks like Ryan's in now.
No, I think that was
So
Mike.
Mike Buchert is in now by telephone only.
Okay.
So continue with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is a view. I believe it's looking to the northeast. And this is looking to the southwest. And it contains 19 lots, single family residential. Odd sound. Let's see. And
Mike needs to mute.
Lance, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I see Ryan's here.
Yes, I am.
You can move forward if you want to, Lance, or let Ryan take it over from where we got noised out.
Okay. I believe we're at the public hearing portion, and Kelly Harris, I believe, is with us to explain the project.
Yes, thanks, Lance. So 19 lots, we're in line with the approved preliminary plat. All the improvement plans have been accepted. Drainage study has been accepted. I believe in your packet, there were some comments about a fire truck turnaround. That has been addressed. So all staff has signed off on the project. That was about all I had. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
Well, I had some questions as staff, but maybe the applicant, Kelly, could answer them.
Okay.
Regarding the public facilities, the streets and traffic, I drove through for a second time in the plan development yesterday, and I noted that in the discussion paragraph in staff's write-up, it said that it should be noted that Tyler Avenue and Lewis Street do not meet City of Stillwater standards. Well, of course, visually they don't. What's going to be done to rectify that, bring them up to standard?
No, not as part of the project.
Not as part of the project.
And that
Okay.
was discussed at preliminary plat stage as well. And it was determined by city staff that that was not a requirement for the project.
Okay, staff, I've got a question then. How will the improvements be financed? Is that through the property owners of the that abut on the development?
Yes, it will. Those will have to be done because they are technically outside of the development. An additional right-of-way will be needed, particularly along Lewis. The adjacent property owners, as they are at the time that any petition to do improvements would be requested, those property owners adjacent to those streets will pay.
Okay, will the property owners be aware of that?
They would be at the time that they would make the petition request to do improvements. At the present time, they're not, per city policy. If you look at the plat, you'll see that the boundaries of the plat are at the right-of-way, which would exclude the street. So any of those exterior streets would be have to be improved at the petition request of adjacent property owners, however many there are at the time. So potentially any property owners of these new proposed lots would be part of that petition process.
Okay, and potentially too, we could have substandard streets for X amount of time.
That is correct.
Okay. The other question I have then is drainage has been submitted and approved. What is the drainage? Runoff?
Surface runoff, and there's a outlot that is an access utility and drainage easement to the southeast corner of the property to help accommodate some of that.
Some of that. Okay. Not quantified.
It was included in their drainage study, and engineering felt the drainage study that was submitted with the drainage system and put in place would be adequate to sustain surface runoff.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant or related with that to the staff? Hearing none, is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Hearing none. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Hearing or seeing none, then I declare the public hearing closed and ask for staff recommendation.
Okay. So in terms of recommendations, you can find that the proposed preliminary plat meets the land development code requirements. As you can see in the findings here, there was a turnaround that was required due to fire code. They are using the access easement, access utility drainage easement in that one outlot, basically where the interior streets make an L to the north to do that. The density proposed is in line with the RSS zoning. This is a subdivision under 30 lots, so there is no requirement to have 2 points of access, and most of the lots bound exterior streets, or a number of them do. In terms of based on those findings, your alternatives are you can accept, you want to move to the next screen, Lance, next slide. You can accept the proposed subdivision as is and approve it. You can reject the findings, and then deny the proposed final plat as it's been presented. If you feel additional discussion or information is necessary, you can make a decision to table the item to a certain date, and we would note that any action has to be within 60 days of the public hearing. So we would need to do a date certain in order to meet that 60-day requirement. Questions of staff that we can answer?
Okay. Hearing no questions for staff, we'll open it up for discussion or a motion.
So this is Mike Wickert. Can you hear me again?
Yes.
I've heard all the discussion. I've heard everything. I was part of the feedback operation, and I think I've got that corrected. I'll make a motion that we approve this final plat.
Okay. We have a second.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the final plat as presented. We will now vote.
Mr. Buchert,
Yes.
Mr. Rickelman,
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan,
Yeah.
Mrs. Jerome,
Yes.
Mr. Allred, or yes.
The motion passes 4 yes, 1 abstention, no answer. We'll now move on. Unless, Mike, you'd like to take over, we'll move on over to the second item, which is plans, policies, and ordinance for public hearings, discussion, and possible action. A text amendment, TXT 20-03 to Chapter 23 Land Development Code, Article 5, Use Categories and Limitations, Division 1, generally, Section 23-137, RSS Small Lot Single Family Residential, and Section 23-153, CG Commercial General District. Staff.
Okay. Our apologies for the long title. This is a proposed text amendment in response to potential development requests that have come in and been in discussions with staff over the last few months on 2 different occasions at a minimum, but some others as well. And so right now, this review is for the RSS and the CG, so small lot, single family residential, and commercial general districts. Right now, as we've seen businesses reopen, we've seen a number of developers and potential developers look at vacant properties, particularly in the western half of the city, in commercial lots that are looking at different possibilities. Some of those potentially would require either some a lot of rezoning or a lot of redevelopment, but to accommodate some of those potential requests and some of the potential uses that would be coming in within those zoning districts, particularly the commercial general, a text amendment would be in order to add some uses, a use that isn't currently allowed. Otherwise, it would be operating in a non-conforming status and in violation of code. In addition, we've had discussions with one of the cemeteries in town that's in an RSS zoning district, as they look at doing some work and potentially trying to add space just for storage and office space, things of that nature, only to look at the RSS zoning and see that that is a use that is actually not allowed. So anything they do right now is in a non-conforming status as well. So these are two cases where staff is trying, and the city is trying to be responsive to property owners and potential developers so that they can move and be in a conforming status going forward. With that, the RSS zoning district would actually be adding the use of cemeteries to it as a permitted use. And then general housing would be allowed to the commercial general zoning district. Questions of staff?
Do we need to take another vote or roll call? Even though we just had a vote?
No, the roll call vote that we just did accounts for everybody except Brett.
Okay.
Then my question would be just is that your incidental accessory uses is exactly storage and things, not bodies and things. It's storage and maybe an office or things of that sort is what you're talking about with that.
It would be, yes, but those are accessory uses to the primary use. And so to have one, you have to have the other within that zoning classification.
Right. And then is an apartment like hotel, is that something, what does that exactly entail?
It's kind of like a general housing type of category that can be structured somewhere in between a dorm and a multifamily type of dwelling. Has some flexibility built in for common areas, as well as how they structure the actual number of occupants within, as we envision it, and as some of the developers have envisioned it, a mix of potential occupancy loads within each dwelling area, inside the overall structure.
So maybe a co-op or a fraternity or sorority house? Are those what you think, what we're talking about?
Not in the sense, no, not in those senses, but
okay.
Could be more like live work type units. Could be some general type of student housing, but not necessarily full blown multifamily units. Some of the common areas would be joint facilities of recreational or cooking type of things.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing and ask for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the ordinance or thereof, changes thereof. Hearing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the change? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for staff recommendation.
So based on at this point, staff basically is looking at the fact of, in terms of findings, that one, the current code does not allow these uses in either of these districts. Number one, and two, that in order to enable those uses in either district, we basically would have to have a text amendment in place to change those uses or allow them and add them. Having said that, your options are to accept the findings and recommend council approve the proposed text amendment as it's been presented. You could find it's appropriate with some amendments and recommend the text amendment with those changes to council. You can find it's not needed and deny the request or recommend council does not approve it. Or if you feel additional information or discussion is needed, you can table the recommendation and discuss it at a future planning commission meeting at a date certain. Questions of staff regarding those options?
Hearing no questions for staff, do we have a recommendation, comments, or motion by the commission?
This is Mike Bickert, and I move we accept findings and recommend the city council approve the proposed text amendment as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation, the ordinance changes, and recommend them to be approved by the city council. We'll now vote.
Mr. Bruker,
Yes.
Mr. Rickelman,
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan,
Yes.
Mrs. Jerome,
Yes.
and it's Mr. Allred on. Or yes.
The motion passes 4 yes, 1 abstention. We'll now move on to miscellaneous items from staff, planning commissioners, or city attorney for discussion. It looks as though we do not have any minutes of the previous meeting, so I think the next item is next planning commission meeting will be on October 6th. And do we have a motion then to adjourn?
I move to adjourn. Brad, thank you for chairing this committee.
I second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn, and of course, happy to help out.
Mr. Bruker,
Yes.
Mr. Rickelman,
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan,
Yes.
Ms. Jerome.
Yes.
Mr. Allred. Or yes.
The motion prevails with 4 yeses and 1, I hope Brett's listening at least, and 1 non. Thank you all. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and look forward to seeing you all in 3 weeks because we have a 5th Tuesday this month. Thank you all very much.